Next, we're going to go to our first caller today. We're going to go to Tim in Philadelphia. You are on the King of Sports Blog Radio, Tim.
Yo, what's going on? It's Tim from kashkellyandac Sports Report. I'm listening to this rant, and I agree with you on a lot of the points. I think what they could possibly do is maybe give players like a one-year scholarship if they decide to leave, something like that. But the players aren't there because they want to be. They're there because they're forced to be. I mean, guys like John Wall would have never touched college basketball had they not been forced to. I mean, the NCAA knows they missed out on the LeBrons and the Kobes, and that was their kind of agreement with the NBA. We can't be missing out on these guys, so just make them go here 1 year so we can make some money off of them, and then you can have them in the NBA.
But that's professional. The NBA makes money off of the players that play in the league. They do get paid amazing salaries, but no one would be watching the NBA if they did not make money off of LeBron James, telling him to go do an hour decision. And ESPN gets paid off of him because he decides that he wants to take an hour, 59 minutes and 59 seconds, to talk about his whole tour, his world tour on where he wants to go. And then the last second, he says, I'm going to take my talent to South Beach. The NBA makes money off of these players. The college basketball and the NBA players get paid. In college basketball, the players don't get paid, but they use him just as much. So just call them professional athletes, let them go high school to the pros, and the NCAA is going to survive because they take money from all the kids that actually want to be in college, and they charge them so much to get into college just to go to school, which is what they want to do. They don't want to play basketball for 15 games at that arena, and then they want to make a career off of that. These NBA guys can make a career right off going from high school to the pros.
Yeah, but I mean, the product the NCAA wants to have is they want to have the best product. I mean, with all due respect to Jimmer Fredette, he's not going to be Kemba Walker in the NBA. He looks great in college.
What is Kemba Walker in the NBA?
Kemba Walker in the NBA is probably, I'm not going to say he's the number one piece on the team, but he's probably a number two. I mean, I was listening to an interview with Jay Wright, coach out Nova, and he said that he thinks Fredette would be a nice two-guard piece off the bench, and everyone really thought he's just saying that to be nice. He said that he thinks Kemba Walker could be a star in the NBA. The guy has talent. The guy can hit the big shot. And, I mean, with all due respect to Jimmer Fredette, he did not play well last night. I mean, I know he hit that shot, but, he was like 3 for 11 from 3.
Yeah,
I thought
like
he played
30%
horrible
shooting.
down the stretch. Yeah, I thought he played horrible down the stretch and in overtime. I think he was hurt because he wasn't driving. He was just pulling up and chucking up threes, and the shot was not going.
They mentioned that we saw the chin injury, that he had the bandage on his chin, but there must have been something else because, yeah, he was settling for that outside shot, and that's the reason BYU lost. But you mentioned that – wait, what did you mention? They had the best product, and there was something else.
Oh, yeah, like the NCAA wants the best product, and the best product is by getting the John Walls, the type like that, to come to college for that 1 year and be this big star. I mean, John Wall would have never gone to college. He would have just gone straight to the NBA. Instead, college got to make millions off this guy. He was huge.
Well, the fact is that if the NBA wants to control that product, I don't understand truly why the colleges. Here's what the college teams have to understand. They might not have the Jimmer Fredette. No, I'm not. You can't mention Jimmer Fredette. They might not have the Kyrie Irvings who are going to sell out their arena. But if they have any player who wants to stay for 4 years and that team is not bad, these guys are obviously going to have. These guys are obviously going to sell out the arena because teams are obviously going to be competitive, and there are going to be certain teams that are better than others. They don't. They can make money off kids that want to be in school for 4 years. They can make just as much money off a guy like John Lewis, and he was the big star player in college basketball because all the freshmen who didn't go to college and they went straight from high school to the pros. They would make enough money off John Lewis, even though he's not a big time star. They would make just as much money off him as they made off Kyrie Irving if Irving had stayed for 4 years. They don't need the big stars. They don't need the big stars to succeed.
Yeah, I disagree though. I think John Wall's a much bigger piece. The NCAA basketball already has one of the most irrelevant regular seasons in any sport. If they lose these huge stars and it's a bunch of guys out there, I know they want to play, but that only gets...
If they have...
What?
The reason why Kentucky didn't win last year, March Madness, or didn't even reach the Final Four, was because they did not have an attachment to the school. You watch these seniors, the teams with seniors. They tell you when you fill out your bracket, look at a team that has a bunch of seniors. You look at Butler, that's a senior team. These are guys who care about their school and they want to win before they leave. John Wall and Daniel Orton and Cousins and Patterson, Bledsoe, they did not care about Kentucky. They cared about themselves. They cared about their millions. Why not get devoted kids who actually want to be in school and care about that school? They love that school. They love the students, whatever, and have them try their hardest. People are still going to watch March Madness, and there truly is no way of getting around, like what you said, of the fact that they have one of the most irrelevant regular seasons of any sport. That's because even when John Wall was in college last year, you tuned in a little bit to him every once in a while. That didn't get your attention to every team in college because there's so many teams. Unlike basketball, the NBA that has 30 teams, and you care more about those 30 teams than all 100 colleges, or even more than that. I want to know that number for some reason. All the teams vying for a March Madness spot. People cared about Jimmer Fredette. He was a phenomenon this year. But BYU ratings were higher than normal, but everyone in the country wasn't trying to tune in to Jimmer Fredette every regular season game when he played teams like UNLV in the regular season. There is truly no way the NCAA could get a regular season to be as relevant as an NFL's regular season, or you could truly only say the NFL has the most relevant and the only relevant regular season until the last month of every other sport. No one cares about baseball in June unless you're a diehard baseball fan. They can't attract everyone. And the NFL with 16 games, and if they change it, it's just going to become less relevant. But 16 games, people care about only those 16 games because any game could change the season. If you lose one game in 162 in a baseball season, then you're out of it. You're not out of it. No one cares. The fans get disappointed that night.
It depends what team you're on, though, really. I mean, certain cities do have great teams, and they do care all year. That's a different point. But back to your point about players that want to be there, I mean, we saw with this BYU team, they probably had more will than some of these other teams, probably some of the other teams that we have seen have these phenomenons. The problem is that only gets you so far, because once you're at that point, talent wins championships once you're at the point of being in the championship. You can get there on will, but you got to have quite a bit of talent. And we saw that. I mean, if BYU has the talent of Brandon Davies on that team, they could probably have won the national title. I mean, obviously they decided that their following their stupid honor code was more important than their chance of winning a national title, which blows my mind. But I think will only gets you so far, and we saw that with Jimmer last night. He had no help.
Well, if you look at last year's roster for Duke, who won the national title, you look at that roster, this is a team that last year had Nolan Smith as a junior, Singler as a junior, Shire a senior, Zubek a senior, and those are guys who care about that because that could be their last game. Nolan Smith and Singler weren't expected to be going out. But that could have been their last game, and it was Shire and Zubek's last game. But if you look at Kentucky last year, that's 5 freshmen. I know it gets down to talent, but if you're a player like John Wall and you get to that – we saw Derrick Rose. That year with Derrick Rose against Kansas, Derrick Rose cared so little about his body in that Final Four, which showed off. He didn't care about his school. So he decided that he's going to eat total crap and gummy bears and cookies all in the Final Four, get himself sick. If you're a player like Mario Chalmers and that's your last game, that national championship, you're going to focus only on that. Derrick Rose cared more about screwing around and playing and ready to go to the NBA. I respect Derrick Rose in the NBA, but I had absolutely no respect that year when he was in the national championship because you have no business representing your school of Memphis as a school where the players don't care anything about nutrition. They don't care about the national championship. They're just going to eat gummy bears and Oreos and Chips Ahoy in their hotel rooms before the finals. Instead, you have players like Kansas who are like crying there because that's their last game as a member of college basketball, which truly, when you're good and are on a good team, that's a fraternity that you could only understand if you play all 4 years or a good 3. You can't understand.
Yeah, but there's a draw to Duke, though. If you go to another team and put that same talent on Duke, if you have that game or a Kentucky game on with John Wall, I mean, that's just an example. But if you have a sensation game on or just a team that has a nice player or a nice couple players like that, they're going to watch the sensation. I mean, people would have rather seen John Wall. People were talking about John Wall last season. People who didn't know sports were talking about John Wall. And, I mean, it's a rare case that they talk about a senior the way they have with Jimmer Fredette. They usually talk about, at least in recent memory, these one-year guys that come in. It's great for the NCAA.
That's because they all went straight to from high school. When you looked at these guys from high school, I remember O.J. Mayo was a big phenomenon, ready to go straight from high school, and then the NBA changes the rule, and this guy has to sit through a year at USC where he went to the Elite Eight or the Final Four, and then goes out, and there goes his potential a little bit. It hurts the players a lot, and that's truly what we care about. If Dwight Howard had went to college, I don't know how he would be, but because he's much better than O.J. Mayo, but if he struggled a little bit, then there goes his stock, and this is all about the players. This is not about people making money off of these guys.
Yeah, but you don't make money off of centers normally. You're making money off the guards and the forwards.
Bad
those
example.
are the second position. What?
That's a bad example on my part.
Yeah, I mean, you're making money. I mean, have LeBron James going to college, that would have been insane. I mean, this guy was a phenomenon.
But it was insane when he was in high school. That's another example that's untouchable because you never have a guy who's that focused on in high school. The guys who went out of high school that were number 1 picks, like Howard and Kobe, or whatever, not Kobe, but Howard, he was not hyped as much as LeBron was. LeBron, they friggin' made a movie about how his life was in high school because that was insane. So some of these guys out of high school, they were such rare occurrences where college, you see that. I'll leave this one to you, Tim.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at having you better believe the NCAA would have loved to have LeBron there 1 year. Like, they would have made so much money off him. Even if they lose him,
Steve,
they have him 1 year.
They just want to make money off of these guys. Why not just let them go pro, which is the goal that they want to go to? You think John Wall wants to spend a year in Lexington, Kentucky for a whole year?
Yeah, but I mean, NCAA is about making money. They need to make money to support the team.
They don't need to make any money. They're going to sell out their games anyway. They're going to sell out the Final Four because that's where everyone wants to be. It's a premier sporting event. They're going to sell out all the March Madness games, and they're going to sell out the good teams. They're going to sell out their games anyway with players that want to be there. Everyone's happy. I mean, the NBA, they get their players. They sell out. John Wall comes straight out of high school, the big phenomenon. People do his little dance, and they make a song of him, even though he never played in college. And then Kentucky's still fine because they're going to have these seniors. They have some white guy on their team, not to be any racist at all, but they have a white guy who tries so hard, and he's an upperclassman that wants to be there. Josh Harrelson. He wants to be there. And he's not a John Wall, but he's still talent for that school that is helping them be in the Sweet 16 right now. They're not trying to make money off Josh Harrelson. But you're my age, right?
Yeah.
When we go to college, our parents or families are going to pay a lot of money to have us go to college, which is plenty of money for the NCAA to take a little bit. Take a little bit of that and live on. They're still going to sell out all the college games anyway. They don't make a lot of money off John Wall Kentucky jerseys. They're still going to get paid for the license for all the merchandise, but the money.
Yeah, but I mean the draw and the draw. I mean this isn't to be racist or anything, but like you were saying, the upperclassman white player, is the draw more to a freshman African-American player who's fast and exciting, or is it to this white shooter who can pull up and hit a shot or dunk? I mean, I'm not trying to be racist by that, but I think the draw is more to the black player, and I think he would go straight to the NBA, and they would have lost out on making a ton of money. I mean, they really made a ton last year off him.
But where? Like, Kentucky still would have sold out their games. They were a good team. They had talent, upperclassmen talent. They still had talent.
Yeah, but they gained a fan base across the nation. I know people in
It helped
Philadelphia.
John Wall. It helped John Wall much more than it helped the University of Kentucky. John Calipari is such a draw. People want to play for him because he's a great coach that Kentucky still would have made their money. The NCAA still
but this brought Kentucky back, too. Kentucky wasn't this powerhouse until
but
last
John
year.
Calipari,
they were in the past.
He would have brought in
this was the first piece in doing that.
He would have brought in.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. But I think it's
Kentucky still would have come back eventually with John Calipari. Probably made a Final Four run with him because that's what he does. But if you look at what he's done, he took John Wall to the Elite Eight. He left. He's got to have something when he speaks to these players that I'm fine with you going one and done. Because he goes to the Final Four with Derrick Rose. I'm shocked that Marcus Camby played 3 years for Calipari, but he goes to the Final Four with Derrick Rose. He goes to the Elite Eight with John Wall, and they all go out and be number one picks. And Camby goes out and be number two. See, it's the slimmest example of all time, though. But when you have guys who are one and dones, and then you have guys who stay there multiple years, they're gonna go behind guys who go one and done because it's like you said, it is what people want to see, and I'm not.
Yeah, but I think if you ask John Calipari whether he would have rather had, a good player that comes there for 3 years, 4 years, and then his last season they make it to the Elite Eight, or whether you would have had the excitement that was brought around with John Wall and have him leave after 1 year, I think he takes John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and everyone who's there.
As long as he's winning, and you said go to the Elite Eight and that during that 3-year player's career, as long as he's winning with that guy, he doesn't care. I don't think John Calipari really cares about an excitement a player brought to the court because he's still a popular name. He's a winning coach, and he's one of the most renowned coaches in college basketball that people still would have. John Calipari would have been just as successful with that 3-year player than John Wall. So why wouldn't you want a guy who could stay there longer and still make that run with you? Tim,
because you can go get another player who of a John Wall type, and for 1 or 2 years you get that chance with him at the elite level he's at to go win.
With that group of people, the one and done, I want to just make my money before I get injured. That's 1 year, no chance 2 years. We're going to pull in Oren in Los Angeles into the conversation. Oren, what's up?
What's up? How are you guys doing?
Good. Do you have an opinion on this conversation?
I couldn't listen to that much, to tell you the truth. But, you're talking about kids coming out of college and going right to the pros from basketball?
Correct.
I think it ruins the college game, to tell you the truth. I think they should stay a little bit longer, at least like football, because it's important not only for them, their upbringing, but it brings the excitement to the game. It's
a different sport, though. The football players sort of have to develop and mature and learn a lot more.
Exactly. But it's the same thing in most cases for basketball as well. They might seem good on the field, but not all of them make it to the pros.
Yeah, but I think the thing with the NFL is you got to develop a bit for a team to give you a chance. In the NBA, I think there's less stars than there are in the NFL, and it's going to take you a few years to get to the point where, or in the NBA, you can just walk out there basically, and you have the talent to basically be what you're going to be. And I mean, I agree with your point. I would love to see them just let these guys go straight to the NBA. I prefer the NBA over the college game, but I think for the NFL, you got to have a few years to develop and work on some fine skills. I think basketball and the NBA is a lot more talent.
When we see these guys go in the NBA from college, the younger guys, the guys that are freshmen or something, or sophomores, basically we're just seeing we hear about the stars of the NBA. We do not hear about, this guy got released after they were practicing, and we don't hear about these guys. They may have gotten the second round,
But
you know what I'm saying?
But Tim, you mentioned you mentioned that there are a lot more stars in the NFL than in the NBA. Well, there's two reasons for that. There's more teams in the NFL, and there are more players in the NFL. Where the NBA, you only see some teams have like a 9-man rotation, where you're only seeing 18 different players play in a game in a shorter season. So you don't.
Yeah, but I think the thing about the NFL that is great is players, except quarterbacks, don't tend to have long career spans. So you get a fresh group of stars, especially running back wise, every few seasons, and it's similar with college basketball.
You don't hear about the offensive linemen. There's offensive linemen. There's defensive backs. Look at Darren Sharper. He's been in the league for 11, 12 years. There's a lot of players that's been in the league for a long time, of all different positions. It just depends. I know what you're saying on the running back position, but you'll be shocked about some of the players that stay. They maybe transfer to a different team.
Yeah, but it's
the longevity of football. Yes, it's much less.
There's not as many guys that spend their whole career at the level Darren Sharper has. You tend to maybe be really good for a few years and then you downgrade. I think that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for calling in, Tim.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a good conversation.